Hello, it's the end of March, it's a gorgeous day and I've decided to make a new compost heap. If you've watched any of my other videos you'll know that I'm mad keen on compost, and that's because it is fundamental to growing anything in your garden. The soil is where it all begins, and so if you love flowers, love compost. If you love veg, love compost. If you love bees and insects, love compost, because without that compost, without that terrific soil, your plants can't thrive, and therefore the creatures that visit them can't thrive either. So it all comes back to compost. So I've got some ingredients here, and I'm going to come a little bit closer. That's next door's dog. At this time of year you're likely to have done your first cut of the grass. And so we've got a pile of cuttings here. I've also got some old leaves, that's leafy grass there. I've got wood chip, a bucket of deciduous leaves, a bucket of weeds here. These are some little white alliums that actually have gone completely out of control, so I've dug loads of them up. I've got a bag full of moss here from somebody scarified their lawn, and they know that I like organic materials, so they gave me their moss, which is great. And I've got some old dahlia stalks here from last year, which have been over the dahlias, protecting them from the frost, but we don't need them there so much anymore, so they're coming on the compost heap. So, to get started, I leave a small layer of the previous heap in the bottom, and that makes sure you've got worms already there and loads of the microorganisms that have been digesting the heap, so you know they're the right kind of microorganism. They're already there, and then they can come up into your new heap. So I'm going to put in just big old handfuls, forkfuls, everything I've got here. Mixing it up a little bit as I go. So I've just put in some greens, that's the grass cuttings, and then to balance those out, nice bit of carbon, I'm going to put in some half-rotted leaves. And a few more greens. Give it a little mix around. Oh my word, if I was something that lived in a heap I would be just delighted. Okay, next I'm going to put on the moss. I wish it hadn't come in a plastic bag, but it has, and I'll reuse it as a bin bag. Great. That sort of bridges the gap between brown and green, really, that moss. You know, it's fairly dry, fairly fibrous, but it has got some greenness in it. So actually, my next layer is going to be the weeds. In they go. Now I've put some pretty pernicious perennial weeds in here as well. I've got some ground elder in there, some nettles. Nettles are like, somebody described them as like the multivitamin of the plant world, because they've got almost every mineral accumulated in their leaves. So they're a great addition to a compost heap. And most of them will die off. And if the odd one survives, you can just pull it out, it's not difficult. So that is a lovely green layer, like so, and to that I'm going to add some wood chips. I'll just pop them in the bucket. These are coniferous wood chips, and I would be interested to see if it affects the pH of the final compost. My inclination is that it will probably make it a bit more acidic. But as long as it's balanced with lots of other things, I'm not worried. Right, I'm going to put a few more greens in now. Oh, there's grass. That's what I'm going to do with the forks, it's a bit sticky. Oh, look at that, wow. You know, this is the best sort of present for me. Forget a necklace or something smart. Give me your grass cuttings any day. Whoops, Daisy. That is almost it, really. Now, what I haven't put on is any kitchen scraps, and that's just because I left them in the kitchen. But you can put anything in, really. I would steer clear of meat and dairy, bread, that sort of thing. Not because it won't compost, it will, but because you're more likely to attract rats and vermin to your heap. That said, you'll probably get them anyway. Mice and rats are always attracted to compost heaps. But I put on, you know, little scraps of beeswax that are left over from my honeycombs. They go on there. When I cut the boys' hair goes on there. It's full of nitrates. There's very, very little that you can't put on. You can put on orange peel. I think the worms aren't that keen on it, but it does get digested in the end. Rhubarb leaves, it's a myth that you can't put them on. You absolutely can. There are very, very few things that you can't put in. And likewise, the more pernicious perennial weeds can go in. Docks with their roots, ground elder, bindweed. Don't be afraid of them. Stick them in. And if you're attentive to your heap, they won't survive, because you'll get lots of heat generated, you'll turn them over, you'll spot them. And if they do survive, the texture of compost is so sort of crumbly and easy, you can just pull them out. It's not an issue. Now, I hope you're inspired to go away and make yourself a lovely steaming compost heap.